will be Ken. I noticed Ken has a TV presentation.
I'm going to hold right there.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we will all be able to see it because he's got an iPad. You will be able to see. So tonight, Ken is presenting a speech to fulfill project number 3, a non-technical audience. His talk, entitled Soot Research, will provide you with an insight into the importance of research supported by your tax dollars into soot formation. After the talk, you, a non-scientist, may feel better knowing your tax dollars are being put, at least in one small area, to good research use.
If you pay taxes, raise your hand. If you don't worry, you will be paying taxes sometime, so don't worry about it. Have you ever heard a story of your tax dollars being used to support research that you say is crazy or doesn't make sense, or why is my money going for that? Have you heard that kind of story? I know, I've heard that too. Tonight, though, you'll hear about a research project that's supported by your tax dollars that might make you feel at the end of this presentation that it's worth contributing your tax dollars to research. Now, during the course of my talk, feel free to interrupt me with questions. If you would like, just raise your hand. It's that kind of presentation. The problem that requires your tax dollars is soot formation, soot. Now, I'm showing an example of soot on the television here, but if you can't see it, I also have it on my iPad. I've talked about soot for the last few weeks and finally found a nice picture of a sooting truck. The black smoke that's coming out of the smokestacks, that is soot. Have you seen that on trucks? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We used to see it a lot on buses in the city, but they've been cleaned up a bit. But there are still trucks like that that give off these black plumes of smoke. Now, on the microscopic level, there are tiny little particles in there, and these get into your lungs and carry chemicals with them. So soot is not good for you, and this is a problem associated with these kinds of heavy-duty diesel trucks. And you've all seen that. But that's not the only place you'll find soot in a way that it might affect your life. This is a power plant. It's called the Mojave Power Station, obviously in Nevada, which was put out of service. And it's a little hard to see, but at the top of this, there is smoke coming out the top, and it was put out of service because of the pollution associated with burning coal and emitting particles into this beautiful environment of the Mojave Desert. Soot particles like that form pollution. They contaminate the beautiful desert air, and the wind carries them all over the country. Now, you might think, well, that makes sense to be worried about that. Are there perhaps other places that are concerned about soot? One other place, believe it or not, that's concerned very much about soot is the military. Now, you would think the military has other things to worry about besides polluting the air. But you'll find out that the military has difficulty recruiting servicemen who believe that by working on a military base or around aircraft or ships or tanks, that they might suffer long-term damage as a result of soot. So what are the problems with soot? Besides problems associated with recruiting in the military, it's an environmental hazard, like we saw for the power plant in the desert. It makes the air dirty. It reduces combustion efficiency, so if you're running an engine of some kind and you want to get the most out of the fuel you put in, sooting decreases the energy output. It creates combustible wear and tear. For the military, hinders tactical effectiveness. What that really means in military talk is when the tank is in battle and there's a lot of soot and smoke, the tank can't see the enemy or the other tanks. So it's an interference with tactical effectiveness. It's a health hazard in that it creates asthma reactions and cancer. For example, 10 micrograms, that's a measure of weight, per cubic meter increase in fine particulate matter, PM is the same thing, increases cardiopulmonary mortality and lung cancer. So soot is a serious problem for trucks, transportation, that you might find in your local environment. It would be a contaminant in our beautiful landscapes, ruining our clean air, and it interferes with our military mission. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, it may be obvious that this is a problem that needs scientific investigation. And the investigation consists of examining how a flame produces the molecules that lead to these dark specks, which are called soot. Now we know something about the process. I've studied this, and part of my studies have been supported by your tax dollars through the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy, NASA, and the Air Force. And we've learned that soot is formed from taking a fuel, burning it. It forms these aromatic species, like I mentioned last week, benzene, toluene. Eventually, these come together and form those little black particles that you saw in that first slide. So the process is from fuel to molecules, to bigger molecules, to particles, and big particles. In fact, we know an awful lot about this, that the molecules formed are these ring compounds, and these are the species that I study in my laboratory. Some of you have heard me speak about the shock tube last week. Some of you were actually excited by the shock tube. I can see on your face. Yeah, the shock tube, yeah. Show me the shock tube again. Not this week. I have pictures of it. But that shock tube is used to study the chemistry going from these small molecules to these bigger molecules to the black particles that come out the top. And the only way I can run that shock tube and have graduate students do this work that focuses on this chemistry is by getting research support from the National Science Foundation, government agency, Department of Energy, like I said, the Air Force, because they're concerned about those aircraft, and even NASA. So tell me, don't you feel better now knowing your taxpayer dollars are at work figuring out this little sequence here? Maybe one day your tax dollars will make that black smoke go away? No? You don't feel, do you feel good about that?
Yeah.
Do you feel pleased to know that your tax dollars are being used for my research and helping to? So this talk was about soot formation research. I promise at the end of this talk you might feel better about your tax dollars being used in small part for a good research project aimed at removing this soot. Hopefully I've achieved it. Do you have a question?
Yes, since those big vehicles are emitting soot, why can't the manufacturer sponsor these things?
Why doesn't the manufacturer sponsor it? That's a very good question, and it would be the one I think most people would have on their mind. The reason manufacturers don't sponsor the basic research is they're product oriented. So their goal is to get something out the door that's cleaner, but not necessarily the best scientifically or the best economically. They just try to meet legislative restrictions. So they just do what has to be done. In order to make a change, a fundamental change in the operation of the engine or the performance of this vehicle so that it will be optimized, you need the kind of research we do. And these companies don't want to pay for it because that's long-term research. Are there any other questions? Oh, thank you very much.